will Genshin 5.0 stop the Wuthering Waves hype? I don't know if it necessarily will stop the Wuthering Waves hype for the people who are hyped about Wuthering Waves, but it might turn the eyes off Wuthering Waves for the time being. But I think at the end of the day, this is the gacha space. Something's hot for a world. People move on to the new update to this game, this game, and they just kind of rotate through them, don't they? Well, let's not pretend that Genshin still isn't the big dog. Wuthering Waves has got a long way to go to even be considered on the same level yet. So let's get into it.
Good day to all you glorious Rascallion residents.
What up, bro?
My name is Fox Soul. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to some more Wuthering Waves. And in today's video, we're going to discuss a topic that has been hitting my desk with a couple of different people.
Ooh, plays with the pad. Ooh.
And I want to have a conversation about it. And that is the fact that is Genshin's new update 5.0 going to stop the momentum or, lack of better words, kill Wuthering Waves?
Okay, all right. I think there's an argument to be said that it could maybe slow the momentum. But I do think when 1.3 comes, I think people are going to be hyped. I do think people are going to be hyped. I think the real massive, like, hopefully, I guess for the game and somebody who enjoys it is when we get a new nation, a whole new nation, a proper new area to explore, big vast area, massive addition to the story, mechanics, content to explore, instances, all that sort of stuff will be a big factor of whether the game is being slowed. But I don't think the game is going to be slowed by Genshin, if I'm honest. I think the game will be slowed by its own entropy, possibly.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Well, let's do it.
And hope you're going to sit here and join me for this little conversation that we're going to have.
Well, let's get into it, bro.
So, bar is open. Grab yourself some cola drink. Take a seat. Put your feet up.
I got it.
Let's get into the conversation.
Let's do it. Let's go. I like your little intro.
All right, so today's video, we're going to go ahead and take the time to discuss about Genshin Impact 5.0's update that's been released today on August 28th, and whether or not it's going to...
Question. I haven't tried it out. For all the people who are full-on Genshin fans and don't like Wuthering Waves, how is the update? I'm curious. Is it a W update? Is it kind of less than what you expected? Is it more than what you expected? Is it got you hyped for Genshin again? And another question for the people who have maybe moved from Genshin and are more predominantly Wuthering Waves and other gacha games now. What's the update saying as well? Has it got you more excited for Genshin again? Has it kind of pulled you back? Has it made you less excited for Wuthering Waves? Let me know in the comment section. I'll be really interested to know.
Slow down the momentum of Wuthering Waves, or in better wording from certain people in the community, is it going to kill Wuthering Waves?
How can it kill it, man? Game's dead, right? Game's dead. I've heard all this before. Game's dead, man. No one plays this game.
Well, honestly, I'm going to say the short answer is no to that. It's not.
Okay, so what? Pad. You have to press L1 and triangle to grapple onto them. What the hell?
It won't. Wuthering Waves is going to be perfectly A-okay and fine. That is my opinion, and I am going to stick with it. But
I agree. I agree to a point. I don't think Genshin is going to be the game that kills Wuthering Waves. I hope it doesn't die for a long time to come because I enjoy the game. Wuthering Waves, I think, will be the thing that kills Wuthering Waves. It's that I don't know how to say this, like, maybe potentially get a bit more identity and make themselves stand out a little bit more. They're doing that. They are. I'm not saying they're not doing it, but, you know, so it really stands out and it becomes something of its own, and they really start introducing some unique and adventurous gameplay mechanics to the game.
In case you want to get the long answer out of me in this regard and not the short one, I'll put it this way to you. You gotta think of it like this. Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact, first and foremost, are two separate games.
Yep.
And Wuthering Waves itself is just starting to find its footing now.
True.
So think of it like this. Think of Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact pretty much as children. Wuthering Waves is the infant that is following in the, the footstep of its older sibling, Genshin Impact. And Genshin Impact itself is now approaching its 5th year anniversary. It's going to be 5 years old coming. This is
Oh, what have I said to content creators? Stop fucking using Jeji, man. I lost my 50-50.
September.
I feel like this is on purpose now.
So, I'm going to put it like this. I 100% believe that Wuthering Waves is going to have a promising future.
I do as well.
I do as well. Continues to develop its own identity.
Yeah, I agree.
That, you know, even though
pre-watched
right now, it's all right that it's following in the footsteps of Genshin Impact. It's following the roadmap and everything, and it's doing similar things. That it continues adding more spices into it, and then eventually, you know, by like 2.0 or whatever, it's going to steer off in its own direction and become its own thing.
Dude, I'm starting to think I have pre-watched this video and it was on last night when I'm asleep, because like that is exactly what I just said. Like almost word for word about the identity and for 2.0 as well. I think we're spirit animals, bro.
That will be great. And along with that, I see a promising future with Wuthering Waves, as long as
stop calling it Wuthering Waves, though.
It could continue to grow with the support of a nurturing community this time. And let's talk about a nurturing community. Let's talk like, you know, honestly, what it seems to be the current state of the Wuthering Waves community. This is my opinion, really. But to me, the Wuthering Waves community right now is a big mixture of supportive players as well as others that are more here only for the drama.
Oh, of course.
Or in the chaos. Or in general, they're here just waiting until the next big update for like what happened right here with Genshin Impact.
Which is pretty much every community.
Or other gacha game they're waiting on. And that's all they're waiting for. They're not here for Wuthering Waves. They're just here to pass the time. With Genshin 5.0 update, as it's been dropped, we might see, you know, a dip in the Wuthering Waves player base, and I'm going to think it's going to be, you know, not a huge, big, massive drop. It's going to be more of a, you know, a moderate, low-level drop.
Okay, I don't know. That's hard. That's obviously highly speculative. I think it'll be a significant dent, though, because I just think there's a crossover with all these games. I do definitely think there's a lot of people who play Wuthering Waves who obviously haven't never played Genshin. And there's probably a lot of them just done with Genshin and they really like Wuthering Waves now. But I think in the gacha space, people underestimate that a lot of gacha gamers will bounce around titles. You know, they'll predominantly have one main game or maybe two that they kind of do dailies and they try and keep up with the story at least. And then if they're a spender, they might have the one that they actually do a little bit of light spending on potentially. And then there'll be like a few others that they're just dabbling now and again. Oh, there's a big update. Oh, that looks cool. Let me go try it out and maybe play it for a few hours and then they don't go back to it, or it's more of a sporadic here and there kind of thing. But I do think that gacha gamers are kind of like refugees, you know. They're like travelers. They're just bouncing around looking for a place that's going to accept them, and then they can never quite feel like they're at home, and then they go away again, and they're, you know, I feel like there's a lot of that, if I'm honest. There's a lot of bouncing around.
Nothing that would even cause alarm or should feed into the notion that Wuthering Waves is going to die. The nonsense that
they'll all be back in 1.3
spreading just because, oh, you know, Genshin, when Genshin 5.0 comes, everybody's going to drop it and go play Genshin. In fact, I'm going to put it like this to you guys. I am glad that Genshin, you know, 5.0 is coming. It's here. It's there. Because I'm glad to see that many of these players who, you know, play Genshin Impact are going to be going back to their main game. And first, the real reason why is because, honestly, I think they're going to have more fun playing Genshin Impact than they would with Wuthering Waves. Because not all of them, but there is some vocal ones that, you know, really like to compare Wuthering Waves with Genshin Impact and really make this drama mountain. And, you know, having them go back to their game and focus on their game and not focus on
dude's like, I'm glad that update's there so they can fuck off and leave us alone.
Wuthering Waves anymore and do these comparisons and everything else. I think it's a great thing because, you know, there's a lot of drama that has happened in the community when it comes from these types of players. So their departure to me would help, you know.
Does a lot of this come from the players or CCs, though? I'd argue it's probably both. But let's not pretend that CCs haven't got a massive part to play in these. Who are players at the end of the day, I guess.
Weed out the negativity. It would weed out the riffraff. And I think like the third main reason
I'd like to just see gamers getting fun games.
Is that this is going to allow for the remaining community to tighten up and work together to properly shape the Wuthering Waves community and the game itself into something even better than it was before. I'll say it like this, you know.
It's idealistic.
I have.
It's not a bad ideology to have
with games, you know, before Wuthering Waves, and when you have multiple fan bases that is covering a new game, it does often cause problems. And what better example I can give y'all than a game that I used to cover, which was Lords of the Fallen.
I think this is probably true with the gacha space, is that I think MMO gamers have their favourite game and will criticise other games, but they want as many good MMOs as possible. They want more MMOs. They want new MMOs to be good. I think shooter gamers are the same. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't small toxic player bases or larger toxicity to the player bases, but I think they want better shooters. They want another shooter to play. And there's tribalism in all spaces of society throughout everything. Insert whatever you want there. There's tribalism in it. There definitely is got a subset of gacha gamers that really just don't want to see other gacha gamers, other gacha games, and especially not see them doing well. And I don't know if it's because of the sunk cost bias that goes into that, but lots of other games have a sunk cost bias in them. You know, MMOs. Insert whatever game, you know, there's lots of games you can spend lots of money on that don't have gacha systems, that just have microtransactions or monthly subs or whatever it is. I definitely do think that is a thing that's not totally unique to the gacha space, but is unique in its scale, I guess. Because I see a lot of it in comments in my own videos and in other people's. There's a lot of people that just really hate other gacha games and people enjoying them as well, which is really kind of weird.
The Fallen suffered from this, which was the developers catered to the wrong type of feedback. That's the best way I can put it.
That's a good point, actually.
You had people that was on Reddit, you had people that was on forums and stuff like this, that was basically places where, and it was mostly Reddit to be honest, but places where the developers would get this information from, and people would say, you know, hey, the game's too hard or the game's too easy, and you know, these are people that you could find that they didn't even touch, you know, Lords of the Fallen more than an hour, if that. These are people that was comparing, you know, Lords of the Fallen to Dark Souls, to every other Souls-like experience. Then
I'll just stop there. I think it's totally fair to compare games that are in the same genre, inspired by or take things from other games. I think it's totally fine. It's how far you take that comparison and how much it affects your enjoyability and your vocalization of that and how far you take it. But I totally think it's fine to say, look, this is very much like this, and it compares in A, B, and C ways. I don't think that's necessarily a negative. It's just that people run with it too much sometimes, don't they?
Focusing on Lords of the Fallen itself as its own type of game.
Which is fair.
Lords of the Fallen, when it first came out, had an identity. It was truly a good experience. It was a hard experience. It had its own uniqueness. But with the questionable quality of life changes the CI games provided because of the feedback from the Redditors, we had issues to where, you know, instead of making the game, you know, like the developers claimed they wanted a difficult, challenging game, they changed the map to make it easier for players to find a fucking blacksmith, to find weapons, to do all this other stuff because people missed it, because people didn't want to look up guides, people didn't want to talk to no one, they just wanted to bitch at the developers. We had people who was bitching at developers, you know, oh, the bosses are too easy, and people like myself, we agreed, you know, the bosses were a little bit too easy, but what we express is they're too easy because their patterns are so recognizable that they're doing the same thing over and over and over. You could put them in a loop. Can we have the AI, you know, change? Developers, that's not what they read. What they read was boss is too easy. I could kill him in 2 hits. And what the developers did, they took a boss that had, you know, 1 million health value and they buffed it to 7 million and never changed the AI behavior. So
that to me though is something that's more on the developer. Now I understand what he's saying. I do understand what he's saying. If you've got a more smaller, close-knit community that gets the game a little bit more, I guess, you know, they're gonna maybe vocalize things that are better for the game. But what's better for one person is not necessarily better for another person, and what you might think is right for the game is not necessarily right for the game. That's on the developer to say, okay, right, we've got a problem here, let's implement a solution that works. If they just go, well, they said it's too hard, let's make it easier, then that's on them. You know, there's ways to make something more accessible without actually necessarily just making it just straight up easier, you know? Like we spoke about the whole Scar boss with Kuro. They didn't handle it badly, but they could have done it a little bit better. The way what they did, they just kind of like really made it just easier in a way, rather than trying to make some better changes that would have been a little bit better for the problem in regards to the solution that was needed. But it wasn't a terrible solution, and that was my worry, that maybe we'll start to see that in the future. Oh, this is just difficult, we'll just change it, rather than being like, okay, look at what's causing the problem. It's not necessarily that it's difficult, you're just not giving people the tools to be able to adapt in a way that's positive for the game and allows you to express skill, but it's still difficult. Just making things easier or harder because a few people have moaned is never a good way to go about it. Like, oh, let's just buff some numbers, let's just nerf some numbers. That's on the developers then. You know, they have to find a smart solution that you know, caters to as many people as possible. You're never going to please everybody, but it's best to try and cater to as many people as possible if you're going to want to make the game successful, rather than the vocal minority.
At that point in time, it was completely a artificial update to make it seem harder, but all I'm doing, or anyone else is doing if they were playing against these bosses, is just going around in a fucking circle, doing the same move, dodging the same way, parrying the same way, and just doing it over and over, and nothing changed from it. And this was the problem about having, you know, this large of a community coming in. It made it to where these developers cater to the wrong feedback, in my personal opinion. But
then again, though, that's on the developers, not the community, in my opinion. If you want a successful game, you've got to expect a large community. It's your job to filter the stuff that means something, and then apply a solution that might not be what they exactly have requested, but it's what they need. You know, that's where developers need to understand that. A lot of us gamers, that's one thing gamers are really good at. We are good at telling developers about a problem. We're not so good at coming up with a solution. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times, our solution that we've come up with is nowhere near the best thing for the game either.
Made changes that just diluted the complete identity of Lords of the Fallen. And I kind of was talking about this with some people with Wuthering Waves, because I never played the original, you know, beta, the closed beta on this. I came into when the game was released, and they told me that the closed beta and what we got is 2 different games. That the closed beta was actually a lot more challenging, and it was a lot more different. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I'm going to rely on people whose claim that they played the closed beta. I'm going to rely on their wording to say that, okay, that sounds video, bro. Great. And then the entire explanation, to be completely honest, was you had some vocal people that was
my internet being
from Genshin that came into this, that made some complaints, and Kuro Games catered to them, which made it to where it is more like Genshin than what it used to be.
Again,
which is kind of upsetting, because if they
you can't blame somebody from the Genshin community going, oh, game's too hard, and then Kuro change it and being like, yeah, see, that's why they need to fuck off. That's on Kuro. I don't know if that was the case. I don't know. I haven't heard that personally. I know there's been changes, and I didn't play the test myself, but I haven't heard people say, yeah, the game was a lot harder then, and it's a lot easier now. You can't blame a player who was like, don't like these, too hard, and then Kuro went, okay, let's make it easier. That's Kuro's problem, not the player's problem.
Had a vision and they only catered because you're following a different, this other fan base is just going to come in for a short little while and then skedaddle, when their game gets updated, then hey, yeah, that's kind of saddening. But with Genshin Impact getting this huge update,
and at the same time as well, they do need to try and cater to those audiences. I'm not saying cater to them solely, of course. They need to create a game that they want to, a thing that they believe is going to be successful. But obviously, if you're trying to tackle a massive audience of these players, you want to try and appeal to them somewhat, don't you?
and people
It's
being
definitely
so
not on the
excited,
player. That's on the developer.
I feel that Wuthering Waves now is going to have a chance to avoid this kind of situation. And if the community remains solid and they remain nurturing and they work closely with Kuro, especially after this riffraff moves on, then I don't see.
See, this is what I'm talking about sometimes. Wuthering Waves players and the community do love to go, look at all them terrible Genshin players. Look at them, all terrible, aren't they? They're all bastards. But then they display some of the same traits sometimes that they're complaining about. And I'm not necessarily saying he's being toxic at all. But, like that idea that there's somehow the riffraff because they've got a version of the game that they want it to be. Now, I'm not saying he's not wrong, again, but that's on Kuro, Just because somebody's screaming for something to change doesn't mean the person with the power to change it should listen to the psychopath on the corner, It's up to them to go, oh, actually, there's a good point in there somewhere in all that inane, crazy rambling, but I'm not going to do what he said for me to do, but I'm going to do something different that's going to make the thing better. That's totally on Kuro.
This being a problem. And I'll even give you a little bit of my history here as well. I've tried several gacha games in my lifetime. I've tried Genshin Impact. I've tried Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, and I've tried Honkai Star Rail. And I'll say like this. I think all the games I've tried that was gacha games, except for one of them, which is Devil May Cry. But these gacha games that I've tested, I thought, they were pretty cool. It's just that it never really stuck with me. Like Genshin Impact and I never really got along. Wuthering Waves was actually one game that I expected to even add to this list, but I'm pleasantly surprised that I didn't. That the game actually offered me a lot more motivational, challenges that I actually loved and made me want to keep playing it. So, talking about this, I'll say it like this. I've watched the Genshin, 5.0 trailer, and I'm going to say it like this. Because there is some people out there say, oh, if you play Genshin, the new Genshin update, you're going to drop Wuthering Waves. Well, I'm going to tell you what. I watched the Genshin 5.0 trailer back a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to be honest. There was only one thing that caught my eye, and that was a redhead with some sunglasses that was walking that had like...
Yeah, I know who he's talking about. I don't know what the character's name is, but that character's kind of fire design, actually.
That looked like Bayonetta. And I'm not gonna lie, I love myself some redheads, some redheaded anime waifus, because you know what? There's some feisty little bitches, and I fucking love them. But
I thought he was gonna say, I'll fucking fuck him.
Otherwise than that, nothing else in that trailer made me want to drop fucking Wuthering Waves to go play the game. And I'm not gonna drop, Wuthering Waves to go play a game for one fucking character. It's not gonna happen. I've already had my experience with vanilla, what I like to call vanilla Genshin, that I don't see myself going back to it. And I feel like there is a lot of people like myself that's going to be included in that. And that's where I say for us.
You not got a keybind to just go straight to the map then on pad? Why did you go into the menu to go to the map? Not fucking judging, like. So I just noticed as well, you got an L1 and triangle to grapple, which is kind of wild, at least to the targeted grapples anyway. Yeah, I don't know how people can play on pad.
Us that we need to be a nurturing community. We need to come together, and the feedback that we provide to Kuro Games needs to be solid feedback. That's all. And I mean,
Guests of the
with Genshin's latest update, this also
okay, like I'm not saying that this dude is an elitist, but I think that's kind of an elitist viewpoint to take, though, in my opinion. and I'm not attacking the guy, but I just think that's like, as if like, oh, well, we'll have constructive feedback to give. These guys are fair weather gamers. They don't have constructive feedback to give. Because at the end of the day, who's the arbiter to say what is exactly constructive? Constructive in your eyes might be just like, dude, shut up, man. What are you talking about? That's a dumb update. You know, there's plenty of times I mention stuff in my game, in my videos, and like, oh, this would be cool to add in the game, and there'll be people who are going like that'd be a bad idea, and it's like, okay, that's fair. You know, we're not going to agree. You know, my idea might be dumb, but just in my opinion, at that point in time, it seemed like a good idea because I've been approaching content in a particular way. Maybe, you know, maybe I've been doing something wrong. Maybe I've been overpowered or underpowered, or I've just gone about it in the wrong way that's made it seem like this to me, and that's what's given me that opinion. Or I'm just wrong. You know what I mean? I think the idea that like, well, us as the real community are going to have better ideas to give to them, I think is a bad way to look at it.
Could be absolutely, like I said, this could be absolutely the best thing for Wuthering Waves. The more people that jump ship back to the Hoyo games, back to their Netmarble games and stuff like this allows us, as a fan base, as a community, to lock down and niche this community and just focus on the quality of feedback and nurturing to Wuthering Waves from true fans that actually play it daily, that actually give two solid.
Again, talking about that there, just because you play it daily, and I'm not saying he's saying this, so I just want to get that out. I'm not saying he's saying this. Just because you play it daily doesn't mean that your feedback should be prioritized. Of course, in your head it should, because you're playing it daily. And I get it. It might seem like an asinine comment to say, but what do you play daily? But it's like when you cater to the smaller, like hardcore gamers in any game, you ignore the vast majority of casuals who might not play daily, but come back every now and again and might spend here and there. You know, it's like competitive games mess up with this sometimes, or games that are PvP, and they might have an esports part of the game, and they'll cater to the top 1% of the top 1% really heavily and ignore the vast majority of players, because they're like, well, the best people are playing every day are saying this is a problem, but it's not for everybody else because they're not that good at the game and they don't play the game that much, and they kind of get ignored. And then you get a lot of those players go, do you know what? Let's bounce. And then you end up with dead games then, because the small core audience was listened to, but that's all you have left in the end, you know, because all of the other people who might come in and hop out and come back. And at the end of the day, that's what a healthy community is. You have really a really hardcore audience, and then you have a more casual audience, and then you have people who just pop in very rarely. And all of those people's feedback should be listened to, because that's what's going to make the game grow.
Box about it. And I think that that is what we should be focusing on. So I'm going to leave it with that, and I'll put it like this to all y'all. In conclusion, right? Genshin 5.0's update is not something that I think you, me, or anyone else should be even concerned about. In fact, I think we should be more than happy, and we should be, you know, helping those and welcoming those back to their game. That, you know, they were...
Go on, let's see. Yeah, don't let the door at you on the way. Fuck off.
only here for certain reasons. And they're going back to their main game.
Yeah, you want to come here for the free fucking beers. Yeah, go on, fuck off. You don't spend any money at the bar.
And you know what? This only allows the Wuthering Waves community to grow stronger and be able to grow and be better without a constant comparison to Genshin Impact. See what I'm saying? But I tell you what, you guys tell me what you believe. Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Give a like to the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you agree with everything, because we do daily content here on the channel. And above all else, guys, join the Discord. There is a link in the description below. It's going to say Discord. You click it, come in. I'm posting up music, you know, like we do normally in our videos and stuff like this. We posting up more music stuff that's in there. We're talking more about Wuthering Waves stuff. And we even talk about other gacha games in there. Don't worry about it. I basically am trying to create a little community that if you feel alienated by all the other communities and you want a place where you could just be free to be yourself, by all means, come on in. All right? Well, y'all take it easy. You have a good one. Stay classy, stay jazzy, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.
I like this dude's vibe. I do like his vibe. I agree in the premise that I don't think an update for Genshin Impact is going to kill Wuthering Waves. Again, I think this game separates itself enough that if you enjoy this game, I don't think anything that Genshin Impact can add will stop you enjoying this game, because fundamentally the thing that I believe this game has that sets it far apart from Genshin Impact is the combat. Now, you can argue whether it's better or not. I think it is, but it's just fundamentally different in a mechanical way that separates it. Now, I want the game to have more identity, so I don't think that will kill it. I think it will pull people away who will go and play that for a bit and go through the content and then maybe come back when Wuthering Waves has got an update, of course. If you've got through a majority of the content at the moment and you're kind of just waiting for an update, why are you not going to go and play a game that you've played before unless you just hate that game now? So I definitely think it will pull people away. But then, yeah, going back to, like I said, the stuff about the community, I just disagree on some of that stuff. I understand what he's saying, and I know he's coming from a good place with it. I do. I'm not attacking him on that. I just think that we can't necessarily write off criticism from other people because they're not a fan, or they don't play the game as regularly as you do, or they might prefer another game. Because at the end of the day, I think sometimes when you're in a business, of course you want to listen to the people who are buying your product. Of course you do. But you're doing something right with them. So you need to keep doing what you're doing and expand on that. But you need to listen to the people who are not interested in your product as well and see why they're not interested in your product and try and cater to them as well without alienating your original customers. That's how you get on in business, really. And that's how Wuthering Waves are going to do as well as they possibly can. They're going to listen to the player base, and they're going to listen to people who might become players. I think that's the best way to go about it. And I think arguing that, well, our criticism's true criticism, it's true feedback, it's going to be better for the game. Hey, it might be, but I don't think that's a great premise to start your argument in regards to what you think is best for the game. Because at the end of the day, I think we know what's wrong with games, but we don't necessarily know what's best for the games. I think that's up to the developer to look at everything that's coming in, filter it out, and then action it, and then hopefully they make the right choice. Yeah, good video. I enjoyed that. I like a little yap now and again. But Foxhole, check him out. Show him some love. I'm going to drop it a like. I'm going to drop him a sub, actually. I thought I was sub to this dude. We've watched one of his videos before, actually. But yeah, I like his vibe. I do like his vibe.